Hey guys, welcome back to part 5 of Endless Runner game tutorial series in Unreal Engine. And in this video, we are gonna show up the distance or score that will be keep adding as our player keeps running. Also, we are gonna increase the speed of the player gradually as the distance keeps increasing. And also, you can download this whole project from my Patreon, so you don't have to make the whole game yourself. So do not forget to check that out. All the links are in the description. So as of now, we can jump, roll and move right left, and the overall movement system is quite smooth. Now before we increase the player's speed gradually, we first need to implement calculating distance, because speed is correlated to distance, so first we need to do that. So first we need to create a user widget for that, and for that let's create a separate folder and name it user widget, and inside this let's create a user widget which is under user interface and widget blueprint. Let's name this main hood UI, since this is where we are gonna keep all of the UIs we wanna show up while playing. Now first of all, let's add a canvas panel, and inside that let's place a border. This is going to act as a background border to show the text on. Let's resize it a bit, and let's give it a bit a dark color with the half transparency. Looks fine. And also do not forget to set the anchor at the right place so it will stick to the corner. Now we wanna add like 2 text inside this border, so for that we are gonna use a horizontal box. Make sure it covers the whole border, and then let's add a text. Let's align this text to the left corner and vertically at the center. Now let's set the text as distance. Now you can also add a padding to the left side to shift it a little away from the corner, like this. Also let's set its size to 30. Now let's add another text and give it the size of 35. Then let's set the default text to 00. Align it to center and make sure the size is filled. So now no matter how long your text is, it will always stay at the center, as you can see that. Now let's rename this text. Let's name this distance value txt, and make sure here is variable option is checked so that we can edit its value in the blueprint. Now let's open up your game mode, and this is where we are gonna display our main hood UI and update the distance. So at the begin play, we are gonna execute 2 different codes. The first one is spawning the floor, and the other one is creating a main hood widget. So get create widget, here select your main hood UI, which is this one, and then let's promote this return value to store the reference of this widget. Let's name this main hood UI and add it to the viewport. So this is going to display the widget on the player screen from the starting. So if we quickly play and test, you can see we have that widget on the player screen. But now we need to update that text to calculate the distance. So for that, let's create a custom event. Let's name this update distance. So inside this custom event, we are going to write logic about updating distance and the text, and we are going to call this event just after we create this widget. So as we create the widget, we are going to start updating the distance. Now before we create this widget, we need to do one more thing. That is, we need to get the reference to our runner character, which is this one. So for that, let's cast to our third person character. And to plug it here, we need to give it a reference. So get player character and plug it here. Now as we cast, let's promote this to variable to store the reference of the character. Now as we cast, the character reference must be stored inside this variable, but there is a chance that this cast can fail. So in that case, let's add a very short delay of 0.01 seconds and plug it back to casting. So if we fail the cast, after 0.01 seconds, it's gonna try again until the cast succeeds. And when it succeeds, we can create a main hood UI and do other stuff. So now let's finally update the distance. So to do that, let's set a timer by event. And to this event pin, just add a delegate for this event, and let's name this add score. Let's set the time to 0.1 and set this to looping. Now what this timer will do is, it will keep calling this event every 0.1 seconds in a loop, and as it keeps calling this event, we are going to update our distance. So for that, let's create a variable. Let's name this distance, and let's make this integer since we don't want any decimal values in the distance, and let's set it here. Now how we are gonna set the distance value? So let me show you that. So this is our player start. First of all, make sure its X location is at 0. You can shift the road a little backward just so it won't create any problem. Now at this player start, a character will spawn, and as he keeps running straight, the X location value will increase, and this X location value is going to be our distance. So what we are going to do here is get your character reference and get actor's location. Right click and split the structure, and here we want the X location of the character. Let's round this value, and we can use this value as a distance, but it's a little bigger value, so let's divide it by 10 and then set it as a distance. So this way we are going to set the value of our distance, and this will repeat every 0.1 seconds in a loop. Now after we set our distance value, we need to update this text. So to do that, get the main hood UI reference, and here we want to access this distance value text. So just search for distance value text, here it is, and we are going to set text to change the text value. Now in this text parameter, we are going to give it the value of this distance variable. So here we converted the integer to text, and just make sure to set minimum digit to 2, otherwise it will start as a single 0 rather than a double 0. So that looks better, I guess. Also, you can promote this timer to a variable. Let's call this distance timer. So now let's play and test this. And as you can see, the distance value is getting updated and showing up correctly in the UI. And now we need to work on increasing player speed as the distance value increases. So for that, let's create a custom event, and let's name this increase player speed. Let's set timer by event, and let's promote this timer to a variable. Let's name this player speed timer. Now from this event pin, let's add a delegate, and let's name this update speed. Now we are going to call this event every 2 seconds in a loop. Now to update the speed of the character, get the character reference, and from this get the character movement component, and from this component set max walk speed, and this value is responsible for the speed of a character. Now we are going to set the speed value according to the distance value, means more the distance, more the speed. So get the distance, and let's first convert it to float, and from this search for map range clamped. Now this node helps you map the value according to the input you gave. So for suppose you need to map the value that is between 1 and 100, and you want to map the value between 1 to 10, and let's suppose you give the value 50. So for 1 to 100, if the value is 50, then for 1 to 10, the value must return 5, and that is how it maps the value. So in our case, the base value is distance. So if the distance is between 0 to 1 lakh, then it must return the value between 20 to 5. Yeah, I did it in a reverse order. So more the distance, less the value. Now what we are going to do with that? Let me show you. First get the character movement component, and from that get the max walk speed, and we are going to add this value with our mapping value. And that's how we are going to update our character speed. So overall, more the distance value, less the value we are going to add in our player speed. Now to make this a little bit cleaner, let's move it inside a function instead. So create a function, let's name this calculate player speed, and here just paste the code. Now get a return node, and here we are going to return this addition value. Now just call this function here, and to remove these execution pin, just make it a pure function. There you go, and now we just have this return value which we can directly plug here. Now there must be a limit to add the speed to the character. So for that, let's create a variable. Let's call this max player speed, and make sure it's a float. And inside this variable, we are going to store the maximum speed of the character, and I'm gonna set it to 2000. Since it's enough for our character, I guess. Now we are going to compare it with our player's current speed. So if our player's current speed is greater equals to the max player speed, in that condition, we are going to set the current speed to max, and then stop calling this timer. So for that, get the player speed timer, then clear and invalidate the timer. And this will stop this timer to call this code again and again. Now let's also print the current speed of the player as we keep updating it. So now let's call this event after we update the distance. And now let's see how it works. So in the top left corner of the window, you can see it prints the current speed of the player, and it keeps updating every 2 seconds. And as per the logic, it will go up to max 2000. So it's been around 1.5 minutes, and it's still increasing the speed of the player. And right now you can already see how fast our character is going. So it's working fine. Now one more thing we need to do here is just go to your character blueprint, and this is where we have implemented all the character movements logic. So in the side movement event, here right before the timeline, let's make some space. So here what we want to do is, we want to increase the speed of this timeline according to the speed of our character. That means the faster our character will run, then the faster it will move sides. Cause in the long run, it can cause issue to tackle the obstacles. So you can get the side jump timeline from here. So it's literally this, and then search for set play rate. Now the default play rate will be value 1. So any value above this is going to increase the speed of the timeline. Now we are going to decide the rate value according to our character's speed. So get the character movement, and from this get max walk speed, then get the map range clamp. And if the speed is between 1000 to 2000, it is going to return the value between 1 to 1.2. And that is how we are going to set the play rate of the timeline. So that is it for this part of this tutorial series. If you really like this video, you can support me on Patreon, where you can get all the project files I've ever created for these tutorial videos. The link is in the description. And you can also join my Discord server, where you can interact with other developers of this community. And if this video really helped you out, you can like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I want to thank the Patreon members of this month. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot. Alright, till then, see you. Bye bye.